AITA for not letting my dad move in after he insulted my wife. What would you do if your own father called your wife too soft, then begged to move into your home? I thought saying yes would bring us closer. Instead, it destroyed everything. Until one night, he showed up drunk at our door with a bag and a bottle. My name is Quinn. I'm 35, and I've been married to my wife, Elisa, for 6 years. We live in a small town just outside Manchester, in a modest 2-bedroom house we bought right before the pandemic. Elisa works as a school counselor, and I'm an electrician. Life hasn't been perfect, but it's been steady, peaceful even. The only thing that's never been easy is my relationship with my dad, Wesson. Growing up, Dad and I were close. He was the kind of father who showed love through fixing things and giving advice that didn't always land the way he thought it did. But after my mom passed away 5 years ago, he started acting sharper, less patient, especially toward Elisa. From the start, he thought she was too soft. He once said, right to her face, "You talk like everything's a therapy session." Elisa just smiled politely, but I could tell it hurt. We tried to keep things civil. We'd invite him for dinner, visit him for holidays, help him with errands when he needed it. But no matter what we did, he always had something critical to say about her cooking, about how we ran our home, about how I let her make the big decisions. 3 weeks ago, Dad called me. He sounded uneasy. "Quinn," he said, "I need a place to stay. My landlord sold the building, and I've got nowhere to go." I felt bad. He's my dad. He's getting older. But I hesitated before saying yes, because I knew Elisa would feel uncomfortable. When I told her that night, she was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "I'll support whatever you decide. But Quinn, I need you to promise me something. If he crosses the line again, I can't keep pretending it's fine." I promised. Dad moved in the following weekend. The first few days were fine, awkward, but fine. He sat in the living room watching football, helped with small repairs, and even complimented Elisa's lasagna once. I thought maybe things were finally turning a corner. Then one night, while we were having dinner, the mood shifted. Elisa was talking about a student who'd been struggling at school, and Dad interrupted her mid-sentence. "You spend more time worrying about other people's kids than your own," he said. There was silence. I frowned. "Dad, that's not fair." He smirked. "Just saying. She's 33 and hasn't given you a child yet. Maybe she's too busy fixing other families to start her own." Elisa's fork clattered against the plate. She stood up and quietly left the room. I sat there, stunned, my blood boiling. "Dad, what was that supposed to mean?" I asked. He shrugged. "You deserve a wife who's focused on building a family, not running counseling sessions at home." That was it. Something in me snapped. "Pack your things," I said. "You can't stay here anymore." His face went red. "You're kicking your own father out? For her?" "Yes," I said, "because she's my wife, and because you've done nothing but insult her since the day you met her." He stood, shaking his head. "Ungrateful. You wouldn't even have that house without my help." I walked away before I said something worse. He left the next morning without another word. But it didn't end there. Later that week, he started calling. At first, I ignored it. Then he began showing up outside our house. Once, he knocked for almost 20 minutes, shouting that I was turning into my mother, cold and heartless. Elisa hid in the bedroom while I stood at the window, watching him pace back and forth, his voice rising until the neighbors peeked out their windows. When I finally opened the door, I told him he needed to leave. He just stared at me, eyes wet but angry. "You think she loves you more than I do? She doesn't. She'll leave you one day, and then you'll come crawling back." I slammed the door. He didn't come back for a few days after that, but his presence lingered. I kept expecting him to call, to show up again, to apologize, but he didn't. Instead, he posted a long Facebook rant about sons who forget who raised them. My Aunt Dylan called me that night. She said, "He's hurt, Quinn. You know how he gets. Maybe just talk to him." I wanted to scream. It was always like that. Everyone excusing his behavior because he was grieving or old or lonely. But no one ever thought about what it did to us. Elisa tried to comfort me. She said, "Maybe he just needs time." But I could tell even she didn't believe it. We both felt like there was a crack in something that would never mend. Then one evening, as Elisa and I were sitting in the living room, the doorbell rang again. I froze. She touched my arm. "Don't answer if it's him," she whispered. But it was too late. I saw his reflection through the glass. When I opened the door, he looked worse than I'd ever seen him. His clothes were wrinkled, his hair uncombed. He held a bag in one hand and a bottle of whiskey in the other. "I have nowhere else to go," he said hoarsely. "You can't just abandon me like this." "Dad, you said terrible things to Elisa. I can't let you live here if you can't respect her." "Respect?" he spat. "You expect me to respect someone who turned my son against me?" Elisa stood quietly behind me, her eyes filled with tears. "I never wanted to come between you two," she said softly. He turned his glare toward her. "Then why did you? Why couldn't you just give him the life he deserved?" deserves. I stepped between them. Enough. You need to go. Where? He shouted. You're my son. You're supposed to take care of me. The argument spilled onto the street. Lights flickered on in nearby houses. The neighbors were watching again. Elisa kept begging me to come inside, but I couldn't stop. I yelled things I wish I hadn't. Things about how he never supported me unless it made him look good, how he'd always made me feel small. For a second, I thought I saw guilt flicker across his face, but then he turned and walked away. That night, Elisa held me while I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my phone. He didn't text. He didn't call. Just silence. The next morning, I found a note under our door. His handwriting was shaky, but the words were clear. You'll regret this one day. I didn't know if it was a threat or a warning or a plea. Maybe all three. It's been 2 months since that night, since I told my dad he couldn't move in with us after everything he said about Elisa. I thought the silence would be the worst part. Turns out, I was wrong. He's been living with my Aunt Dylan in Rochdale, about half an hour from Manchester. At first, I figured that distance would help. It didn't. Instead, he started using Facebook like a weapon. Every few days, there'd be some cryptic posts. Things like, funny how blood means nothing once you get married, or some people forget who raised them. At first, I ignored it, but then my cousin Jose tagged me in one of them and wrote, you two need to sort this out before it gets worse. That was when I realized it wasn't staying private anymore. Elisa saw it too. She didn't say much, just scrolled through the comments with a blank face. He really wants everyone to hate me, she said quietly. And maybe it's working, because people were choosing sides. My uncle stopped replying to my messages. My mom's side of the family began posting passive-aggressive family unity quotes, clearly aimed at me. One Sunday afternoon, my dad finally called. I stared at his name on my screen for a long minute before picking up. You've made me the villain in everyone's eyes, Quinn, he said. His tone wasn't angry. It was wounded. That made it harder. I didn't say anything, Dad. I told him, you did that yourself. He went quiet, then sighed. You've changed since you met her. The words stung more than I expected. Maybe, I said, but maybe that's not a bad thing. I just don't understand how you can pick her over blood. I'm not picking anyone, I said, my voice rising despite my efforts. I'm just refusing to let you insult my wife in our home. That's not betrayal, Dad. That's respect. He muttered something I couldn't catch. Then, louder, you're letting her control you. That was it. No, I said firmly. I'm finally controlling myself. We hung up after that. For weeks, nothing. Just silence, except for the occasional bitter post online. Then last weekend, my Aunt Dylan texted me. Your dad had a mild heart issue. He's okay, but shaken. Maybe reach out. My heart dropped. I sat there for nearly an hour, phone in hand, trying to decide what to do. Finally, I called. He answered after a few rings. His voice sounded weaker, smaller somehow. Hey, he said. Dad? I whispered. I heard what happened. Are you alright? Yeah, he said. Just scared me a bit. Makes you think about things. For a moment, neither of us spoke. There was this quiet hum on the line, like both of us were afraid to ruin the peace. He finally said, I miss you, Quinn. I swallowed hard. I miss you too, Dad. But things have to change. I know, he said softly. Then, almost in a whisper, tell Elisa I'm sorry. When I told her, Elisa didn't react much. She just nodded and said, maybe this is a new start. But later that night, I caught her sitting on the edge of the bed, eyes wet. I'm scared he's only saying that because he's sick, she admitted. Not because he means it. And I didn't have an answer for that. A few days later, Dylan invited us all over for dinner. She said it was time to end this nonsense. Against my better judgment, we went. When we arrived, my dad was sitting in the living room, thinner, paler. He smiled faintly when he saw Elisa. You look well, he said. Thank you, she replied, cautious but polite. Dinner started calm, awkward but civil. But halfway through, when Dylan mentioned how quiet the house had been without me visiting, my dad sighed and muttered, well, some people decided they didn't need their family anymore. I froze. Elisa put her fork down. Wesson, she said softly, I never wanted to take your son away from you. He looked at her, tired but sharp. Then why does it feel like you did? The room went dead silent. Dylan tried to change the subject, but it was too late. I didn't take him, Elisa said quietly. He chose to stop being yelled at. That's all. For a long time, my dad didn't speak. Then, to my shock, his eyes welled up. I just didn't want to be left behind, he said. After your mom died, it felt like everyone was slipping away. That broke something in me. I hadn't heard him talk about mom in years. I'm not leaving you, Dad, I said, but I can't live my life making sure you never feel lonely. That's not fair to any of us. He nodded slowly, then wiped his face. I guess I'm the one who needs to grow up now. That night ended quietly. No shouting, no slammed doors, just this strange, heavy calm. As we left, he hugged Elisa for the first time in years. It was brief, hesitant, but real. The end. Man, that one was something else. Quinn's situation really hit deep, trying to balance love, loss, and boundaries all at once. You could feel how much he cared about both his dad and his wife, but at some point, peace had to come first. Honestly, Quinn's not the AITA here. He didn't choose his wife over his father. He chose respect over chaos. He gave his dad patience, space, and kindness until it crossed into pain. And setting that boundary doesn't make him cold. It makes him human. Elisa handled it gracefully, too. Calm, mature, never pushing him, just wanting to feel safe in her own home. His dad's actions came from grief, sure, but Quinn wasn't wrong for finally saying, enough. And when his dad showed real remorse later, Quinn still met him with compassion. That's not betrayal, that's balance. That one was wild, but trust me, the next story takes things even further, and my reaction might surprise you. Okay, I thought that was bad, but wait until you hear what happens in this next one. It's shocking. Let's move on, because the next story honestly left me speechless. Before we jump into the next story, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let us know your favorite part in the comments. AITA for refusing to raise my husband's 16-year-old daughter's baby when she demanded I help. My 16-year-old stepdaughter came home shaking and whispered, "I'm pregnant." I tried to help her. I tried to tell her the truth, but when I said I couldn't raise her baby for her, she ran away and told everyone I was a monster. My name is Brianna, and I'm 38. I've been married to my husband, Elliot, for almost 5 years now. He has a daughter from his previous marriage named Miley. She's 16, quiet most of the time, and still figuring out who she is. When I first met Miley, she didn't talk to me much. I didn't push her. She already had a mom, and I knew my place wasn't to replace anyone. I just tried to be kind and consistent. Over time, we built a polite relationship. Nothing too close, but not cold either. That changed a month ago when Miley came home pale and shaking. She told Elliot first, then he called me upstairs. She was pregnant. The father is her boyfriend, Leon. He's 18, just started university in Leeds. When she told him the news, he stopped replying to her messages. She showed me her phone. The last thing he said was, "I need time to think." That was weeks ago. Since then, Miley's been trying to figure out what to do. She insists she wants to keep the baby. Elliot and I sat her down one evening in the kitchen and told her, calmly, what that would mean, the costs, the sleepless nights, the way her life would change. She nodded through the whole talk, but I could tell she wasn't really listening. She thought love would be enough. Last week, she started spending more time with me, following me around, chatting while I made dinner, offering to help fold laundry. I thought maybe she just wanted comfort, but eventually, she told me the real reason. "Can you help me watch the baby once it's born?" she asked, staring down at her hands. "Just during the day, when I'm in school." I was stunned. I have 3-year-old twins at home, and even with Elliot helping, most days are chaos. I told her gently, "I can't take care of another baby, Miley. That's too much." Her face fell. "But when you had the twins, everyone helped you. Grandma brought meals. Your friends came by. No one's doing that for me." I tried to explain. "That's because we were adults, Miley. We planned for our children. People helped us because they knew we were ready, not because they had to fix our choices." Her eyes welled up. "So you're saying I don't deserve help?" "No," I said, trying to stay calm. "I'm saying being a parent means taking responsibility, even when it's hard." She stood there for a moment, breathing heavily, and then snapped, "You think you're so perfect, don't you? Just because you did everything right. You don't know what it's like to feel this scared." I felt something in me snap, too. "Don't you dare talk to me like that," I said, louder than I meant to. "I've spent years trying to make this house feel safe for you. I've taken care of you when your dad was at work, helped you with homework, stayed up worrying when you didn't come home on time. And now you're acting like I'm the enemy because I told you the truth." She yelled back, "You just hate me because I'm not your kid." That cut deep. I stared at her, my voice shaking. "If I hated you, Miley, I wouldn't be standing here arguing with you. I'd walk away. But I'm here because I care." Elliot came in when he heard the shouting. "Enough," he said, standing between us. "Both of you calm down." She started it. Miley cried, pointing at me. "I didn't start anything." I snapped back. "I just told her I couldn't raise her baby for her. Then maybe don't make her feel like a failure." Elliot yelled at me, his voice louder than I'd ever heard it. "She's 16, Brianna." I froze. "And I'm supposed to just lie to her? Tell her everything will be okay when it might not be?" The twins woke up crying upstairs, and for a second, no one moved. The house was filled with their screams and the heavy breathing of 3 people who suddenly hated what this had turned into. That night, Elliot and I barely spoke. He slept in the guest room. The next morning, I woke up to find Miley gone. Her phone was on the counter, but her school bag was missing. My heart dropped. I called Elliot at work, and we both started driving around, checking the park, the bus station, the little cafe she liked near the train station. Nothing. Hours later, her mother, Isabella, called. "She's here," she said flatly. She showed up crying, said you two are monsters. I drove to Isabella's house in Fallowfield, shaking with adrenaline. When she opened the door, she looked smug. "What did you expect?" she said. "You're not her mother, Brianna. She doesn't need your lectures." I could feel the heat rising in my chest. "You think I enjoyed saying any of that to her? You haven't been around to see what it's been like." Isabella crossed her arms. "At least I don't make her feel worthless." That That was it. Oh, give me a break, Isabella. You let her run around with an older guy you barely call, and now you want to act like some savior because she came crying to you? Don't lecture me about motherhood. Her face went red. Get out of my house. Gladly, I said, slamming the door behind me. When I got home, Elliot was sitting at the kitchen table with his head in his hands. She's staying with Isabella for now, he said quietly. She doesn't want to come back. Something inside me cracked then. So I'm the villain? For what, being honest? She's 16, he repeated. You didn't have to shout. I laughed bitterly. Oh, but it's fine for everyone else to shout at me, right? She yells. You yell. Isabella yells. And I'm supposed to just stay quiet? Pretend it's all okay. He didn't answer. I turned and walked out, slamming the door so hard the frame rattled. I drove around Manchester for an hour before pulling into a small car park near Heaton Moor Park, sitting there until it got dark. My phone buzzed with messages I didn't want to read. When I finally went home, the house felt emptier than it had in years. The next few days were miserable. Elliot was cold, distant. Miley didn't call. Even my twins started acting up, maybe sensing the tension. Every sound in the house, the clock ticking, the boiler humming, felt loud enough to make me flinch. Then one evening, Elliot came home late and threw his keys onto the counter. Isabella thinks you owe her an apology. I laughed out loud. For what? For not raising her daughter again. He glared at me. You went too far, Brianna. Oh, don't start this again, I said, my voice breaking. I'm done being the bad guy just because I told her the truth. She's pregnant, scared, and 16, he shouted. And I'm exhausted. I shouted back. You think this doesn't affect me? You think I don't care? I've been holding this family together while you tiptoe around everyone's feelings, but mine. The twins started crying again upstairs. We both stopped, breathing hard, realizing the fight wasn't just about Miley anymore. He looked at me, his voice suddenly quiet. I don't even recognize us anymore. I wiped my eyes. Neither do I. That night, I slept in the twins' room, surrounded by the sound of their soft breathing. For the first time, I felt completely alone in my own home. It's been a month since that night, and it feels like the house hasn't truly been quiet once. Every door slam, every silence, every glance feels loaded with something unsaid. When Miley's pregnancy became public, it wasn't even her fault. Someone from her school, a girl she used to hang out with at lunch, posted a blurry photo of her stomach on Instagram, captioned, "Guess who's joining the Teen Mom Club?" Within an hour, it spread across group chats. By the next morning, everyone knew. Her phone didn't stop buzzing. Messages poured in, some pretending to care, others calling her names I won't repeat. She cried so hard she threw up. I wanted to take her phone away, but Elliot said she needs to see what people are saying so she can toughen up. I told him that was cruel, and we argued again in the kitchen until the twins started crying upstairs. The next day, she refused to go to school. We tried talking to her head teacher about online harassment, but all they said was, social media is difficult to control. I wanted to scream. I could see Miley crumbling in front of me, barely eating, barely speaking. Then Isabella called. Elliot answered on speaker. Her voice came sharp, venom-laced. She's been coming to my house every night, Brianna, crying, saying you two treat her like trash. I felt my heart twist. We're doing our best. Your best? She snapped. She's pregnant and terrified, and you've made her feel like a mistake. Elliot tried to calm her, but she was relentless. You pushed her too far, Brianna. You and your lectures about responsibility. You've ruined her. Something in me snapped. Don't you dare tell me what I've ruined. You weren't around when she was sneaking out at 15. You weren't around when she came home crying after Leon stopped replying. You show up when there's chaos, then vanish when it's time to fix anything. Isabella yelled. You're a cold, bitter woman. I shouted back. At least I'm here. You can call me cold all you want, but I'm the one cleaning up the mess you ignored. Elliot slammed the phone down, shouting, enough, both of you. The silence after that was thick enough to choke on. Later that night, Leon finally texted Miley. After over a month of silence, I was folding laundry when she ran downstairs, shaking, her phone clutched in her hand. He texted me, she whispered. What did he say? She read it aloud, voice trembling. He said he's sorry, that his parents found out and told him not to talk to me. They blocked my number. Then she collapsed, sobbing on the kitchen floor, whispering, he's gone. He's really gone. I knelt down beside her and just held her. No lectures, no words, just silence. Her tears soaked through my shirt, and for the first time, I didn't care about anything else. The next morning, she sent me a text. I know you think I ruined everything, but I still want to be a good mom, even if it's just me. It took me an hour to find the right words. Finally, I wrote back, I don't think you ruined everything. I think you're learning the hardest lesson early. I'll help you learn, but I won't fix it for you. She replied with a single heart emoji. It wasn't much, but it was something. For a few days, things got better. She started therapy, a counselor Elliot found through a local family center in Didsbury. She also enrolled in online classes. I almost felt like things were healing, but peace never lasts long here. One night, around dinner, Isabella showed up uninvited. She barged in, furious. I heard she's not in school anymore. What are you doing to my daughter? She She's doing online courses, I said, trying to keep my voice level. It's better for her mental health. Isabella laughed bitterly. Mental health? She needs stability, not pity. Elliot tried to step between us, but I wasn't backing down this time. You think stability means ignoring her? You think running your mouth once a month makes you a mother? She glared. I've been more of a mother to her than you'll ever be. I felt my voice crack. Really? Where were you when she begged someone to listen? Where were you when she found out she was pregnant? I was there. You weren't. The shouting turned into chaos. The twins started crying again upstairs. Miley yelled for us to stop, and Elliot banged his hand on the table, shouting, "Enough!" We all froze. Isabella grabbed her bag and stormed out. The sound of the front door slamming echoed through the whole house. Miley ran upstairs in tears, slamming her door. Later that night, Elliot said quietly, "You shouldn't have yelled like that." I stared at him. "Are you serious? She came into our home, insulted me, and you expect me to just sit there? She's her mother, Brianna." I laughed bitterly. "And what am I? The punching bag?" He didn't answer. I turned away before he could see me cry. Days passed with icy silence. Miley barely spoke to either of us. She spent hours in her room, scrolling through baby clothes online. One evening, she came into the living room, her eyes red. "Can you two stop fighting?" she said, voice trembling. "I'm trying to do better, and you're making it worse." Elliot muttered, "You wouldn't understand." She looked straight at him. "You think I don't? You think I don't hear you whispering about me when you think I'm asleep? I know you're ashamed of me." Elliot froze. "That's not true." "Yes, it is," she yelled. "You can barely look at me anymore." He shouted back, "Because I don't know how to fix it, Miley." She stormed off, crying, and I just stood there, shaking. "You can't keep yelling at her like that," I said softly. He looked at me, eyes full of tears. "Then you talk to her, because everything I say makes it worse." So I did. That night, I went to her room. She was curled on the bed, hugging a pillow. I sat beside her. "You know your dad loves you," I said quietly. She didn't look at me. "He loves the idea of me, not me now." "That's not true." "Then why does he look at me like I ruined everything?" I didn't have an answer. I just said, "Sometimes people look scared when they're hurt, not angry." She sniffled. "Do you think I'll be a bad mom?" I shook my head. "I think you'll be a mom who learns." Then she showed me her phone, a second-hand cot she found online. "It's not much," she said, "but I can't afford it with the babysitting job I found." I felt something crack open in me. "That's a good start," I said. And then, for the first time, she hugged me, really hugged me. Not out of pity or fear, but something real. I hugged her back and whispered, "We'll figure this out." Downstairs, I heard Elliot moving around, cleaning up the shattered remains of a glass Isabella had thrown earlier. The air still smelled of tension and bleach. The end. Not the AITA. Brianna wasn't cruel. She was real. She didn't mock a scared teenager. She faced her with honesty when everyone else hid behind guilt and noise. Saying no to raising her stepdaughter's baby wasn't selfish. It was a boundary built from exhaustion, experience, and self-awareness. You can't pour from an empty cup, and Brianna's cup was already bone dry. Elliot wanted to protect feelings instead of fixing the problem. Isabella swooped in like a drama magnet, pretending to save the day after disappearing for years. Meanwhile, Brianna's been the steady one, holding chaos together while being called cold for not collapsing under it. That's not being heartless. That's being the only grown-up in the room. And when Miley finally broke down, Brianna didn't preach. She just held her. That moment said everything. The truth might hurt, but it came from love, not judgment. She's not perfect, but she's consistent. And that's what real care looks like when the easy thing would have been walking away. So yeah, Brianna's not the AITA. She's the one telling hard truths no one else has the courage to say out loud. I can't even process that last one, but story 3? It's pure chaos, and I've got some strong thoughts on it. Alright, if you thought that was messy, the next one is on a whole new level. Let's get into it. That last one still has me thinking, but this next post, it's going to make your blood boil. AITA for kicking out my boyfriend's cousin after he turned our home into a nightmare? My name is Freya, and I'm 26. I live in Liverpool, in a 2-bedroom flat with my boyfriend Darian, who's 27. We've been together for nearly 5 years. When we first moved in, it felt perfect, quiet, cozy, and ours. I'd worked 2 jobs to help furnish it, and for the first time in my life, I thought I'd found stability. Then Darian's cousin, Jalen, came into the picture. Jalen is 22, just out of university, and struggling to find work. He stayed with us for a few weeks while job hunting. That was a year and a half ago. At first, I didn't mind. He was polite, grateful, and helped with dishes. But slowly, little things piled up. Late nights, loud music, food disappearing, the flat smelling like cheap cologne and takeaway boxes. Every surface became his storage. He'd leave towels on the sofa, plates under the bed, and energy drink cans on the windowsill. The smell of his gym clothes in the laundry never left, and I constantly found crumbs in the sofa cushions, sticky marks on the coffee table, and bits of paper Jalen claimed were art projects scattered everywhere. I tried to stay patient. Darian kept saying, saying, he's family, Freya. He just needs time. But it stopped feeling like our home. It felt like Jalen's. One night, I came home from work exhausted. The kitchen was a mess. My shopping bags of groceries were open, and half the food was already gone. I found Jalen in the living room, eating noodles from one of my new bowls, using my chopsticks. Did you even ask? I said quietly. He looked up, shrugged. You always have extra, Freya. Don't be stingy. Darian came in halfway through the argument. I expected him to back me up, but instead, he sighed. You don't need to make a big deal out of food. That stung. I felt dismissed, invisible, like the person who had built this life with him didn't matter. My hands shook and my chest tightened. You never back me up when it's him. I work, I contribute, and I should feel safe in my own home. I yelled, louder than I meant to. Jalen just smirked and said, relax, it's just noodles. You're dramatic. The words hit me like a slap. I didn't just feel frustrated. I felt betrayed. Darian looked down, avoiding my eyes. Freya, it's not worth it, he muttered. I didn't talk to either of them for 2 days. I stayed in my room, my mind running in circles, trying to convince myself I was overreacting, but I wasn't. Weeks passed. Jalen got a part-time job, but he didn't move out. Every time I brought it up, Darian said, he's saving money. Saving for what? I didn't know, since he bought new trainers and gaming gear every month. Then came the small things that broke me down. Jalen left his socks all over the living room floor, chewed pins and left the bits under the couch, and constantly borrowed my makeup brushes without asking. When I called him out, he said, I don't care about your silly rules. When I told Darian, he sighed and said, it's family, Freya. Don't overreact. The breaking point came when I found my journal open on the coffee table. My private thoughts, flipped through and scribbled on with comments in Jalen's handwriting. Little jokes, sarcastic notes. He'd even drawn a mustache on one of my sketches. My blood boiled. Why would you go through my things? I screamed. The walls of our flat felt like they were closing in. Jalen shrugged again. Relax, it's just paper. You act like you're hiding state secrets. Darian came home just as I was shouting, my voice shaking, my anger spilling over. He pulled me aside and whispered, please don't start another fight. He's family. I couldn't hold it in any longer. I shouted, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. Family? You mean your family? What about me, Darian? Am I not part of your life? Am I not supposed to count? Darian's face went red. Freya, calm down. I stepped closer, pointing at him. No, I am calm. I am done being ignored, dismissed, insulted, and treated like I don't belong in my own home. Jalen laughed mockingly. Yeah, calm, right? That made my blood boil further. You think this is funny? You think invading my life, my space, and mocking me is funny? You're a selfish brat. I yelled back at him, my voice shaking with rage and exhaustion. And that's when I said it, without even planning to. Then maybe you should live with your family. That night, I packed a bag and stayed at my sister Winter's flat. She listened while I cried into her sofa cushions. She didn't try to tell me what to do. She just let me vent. For the first time, I said the truth aloud. I was tired of feeling like a guest in my own home, tired of being silenced, tired of being called dramatic when I was the one holding everything together. Winter didn't speak. She just held my hand. Her silence made me realize I didn't need approval to feel wrong. I had been living in quiet suffering, and finally, I was allowing myself to acknowledge it. Over the next few days, Darian texted me constantly. Darian, WhatsApp, you're blowing this out of proportion. Me, I asked for peace, not perfection. Darian, I can't just kick him out. Me, then you're choosing him over us. Darian, it's not that simple. Me, it's exactly that simple. He stopped replying after that. The silence felt deafening. I couldn't sleep. Every noise reminded me of Jalen's presence in what was supposed to be our home. I started seeing a pattern in myself I didn't like. I realized I had been biting my tongue for too long. I began texting back at every dismissive or insulting remark Jalen left around the flat. Notes on my coffee table, messages about my rules being silly, even sarcastic remarks about my cooking. I called him out, clearly, firmly, with no hesitation. You don't get to belittle me in my own space. You want to act like an adult? Then act like one. Each time he shrugged or tried to laugh it off. Each time my anger grew. I began keeping receipts, photographs, and notes to document his mess, not out of revenge, but because I needed proof that I wasn't imagining the chaos. Darian never intervened, and every non-response made my fury towards him just as real. I had to defend myself from the person I loved, and it tore me apart. Even small things became arguments. A missing pair of shoes, hair in my laundry, food gone. I yelled at Jalen. I yelled at Darian. I yelled until my throat was raw, and sometimes they yelled back. Sometimes Darian said things that made me cry, things I couldn't believe I was hearing. You're overreacting. You're selfish. You always need to win. Every insult was a knife, but I hit back. Selfish? I am surviving in my own home, defending myself while you refuse to see me. Who's selfish now? The cycle repeated for weeks, nights filled with shouting, doors slammed, and texts that came in at odd hours. You're dramatic, Jalen would type on WhatsApp. No, you're a liar and a thief. I shot back, fingers trembling. And Darian, you're a coward. The fire inside me refused to die. 2 weeks ago, I saw a post on Facebook from Jalen, a photo of their flat, sparkling and neatly arranged, new TV, gaming setup, takeaway boxes stacked behind him. It looked like a shrine to his own comfort. In the comments, someone asked, "Where's Freya?" Jalen replied, "She bailed when things got real." My stomach twisted into knots. I felt the sting of humiliation and betrayal all at once. I didn't respond, but Darian reacted with a single, silent like. That tiny symbol of acknowledgement hit me harder than words ever could. It was as if he was finally seeing the truth, but too little, too late. A few days later, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Darian's mother, Aaliyah. "I've heard some disturbing rumors, Freya. I'm surprised you left Darian. Apparently, you couldn't handle responsibility. I expected better from someone I considered grounded." I stared at the message, my hands trembling. The insult burned deep, not just the judgment from a mother-in-law, but the implication that all of my sacrifices, my patience, my emotional labor meant nothing. I wanted to scream at her, to type a blistering response listing every way she had no right to speak about my life. But I didn't. I blocked her instead. Last Friday, the rain fell in thick sheets, and I was leaving a Tesco parking lot with my groceries when I saw him. Darian. His hair was messy, his face thinner, shadowed with exhaustion, a weak stubble covering his jaw. My chest tightened, my heartbeat drumming. I almost didn't recognize him. He walked toward me, cautious but hesitant. "Hey." His voice was soft, fragile, almost like it had been broken down by weeks of regret. I just nodded. "Hi." We stood there, the smell of wet asphalt mixing with the faint scent of his cologne. Shopping carts clattered, rain drummed against the roof above. Silence stretched like a tense rope between us. Finally, he spoke, the words trembling. "Jalen moved out." I froze. My breath caught. "What?" "He got a new job in Manchester. Left last week." He laughed softly, but there was no joy in it. "The place feels empty now." I didn't know what to say. I'd rehearsed this conversation 1,000 times in my head. Confrontation, apology, closure. But now that it was real, all I felt was hollowness. The victory I imagined, the vindication, meant nothing without the man I loved standing beside me. He looked at me, eyes red, almost pleading. "You were right, Freya. I kept protecting him because I thought that's what family meant. But I forgot. You were my family too." My throat tightened, tears threatening to fall. "It's too late, isn't it?" He nodded slowly, and for a moment the world felt like it had stopped. Probably. That night, my phone buzzed again. A text from him. "Darian, I'm sorry I made you feel small in your own home. You deserved better than that." Me. "Thank you for saying it." "Darian, take care of yourself." Me. "You too." And that was it. No argument, no shouting, no grand reconciliation, just quiet understanding. But peace didn't erase the anger, the humiliation, the months of tension. I remembered every insult, every dismissal, every sarcastic remark from Jalen and Darian alike. Every time Jalen had sneered at my cooking, mocked my rules, or rifled through my things. Every time Darian had said, "You're overreacting," or "It's not a big deal," when my patience was stretched to its limit. I replayed the nights of yelling, doors slammed, voices echoing, the tears, the rage, the helplessness. I wanted to text them, call them out one last time. To tell Darian, "You were a coward. You left me to fight your family alone." To tell Jalen, "You are a selfish, entitled brat who has no respect for anyone." But I didn't. I decided some fights weren't worth reopening. Some people, some words, aren't worth reliving. Now, I live alone in a one-bedroom flat in Woolton. I bought a new plant, painted the walls light blue, and started cooking again. The flat is quiet, my own. No one invades my space. No one belittles me. The end. Not AITA. Freya, you were standing on a sinking ship built out of patience and denial, and both Darian and Jalen were too busy tossing your respect overboard to notice the water rising. You didn't lash out because you wanted chaos. You spoke up because you were suffocating under it. The way Darian kept using his family as a shield was less about loyalty and more about convenience. It's easier to silence the person you love than confront the person who's making life messy. And Jalen, he's the kind of roommate that turns small spaces into stress fractures. Part-time job, full-time disaster. You didn't lose control, you reclaimed it. There's only so long someone can live surrounded by dirty dishes, stolen food, and passive-aggressive dismissals before something breaks. You were building a home. They were building excuses. And honestly, your dramatic outburst was just the sound of someone realizing they deserve to breathe in their own house. You tried communication, compromise, and calm. They answered with shrugs and smirks. You didn't start the fire. You just stopped pretending it wasn't burning. Your decision to leave wasn't quitting. It was choosing peace over pretense. Darian's late apology was like an umbrella after a storm. Too little, too late. But at least it shows he finally looked up and noticed the rain. You walked away with your self-respect intact. And that's the kind of win that doesn't need applause. Just quiet, clean air, and a locked door that no one else's cousin has the key to. Okay, deep breath. Because story 4 might just be the craziest one in this entire video. AITA for letting my friend bully me over $700? My name is Maya, and I'm 27. I live in Manchester, in a small 2-bedroom apartment with my cat, Whiskers. I've been slowly building a savings cushion for the first time in my life. Work has been exhausting, but for once, I felt like I could breathe, like I had some control over my future. A couple of months ago, my friend Ariel reached out. She's 26, and we met at university. She's always been charming, always the kind of person everyone wants to be around. Lately, though, things seem to be catching up with her. Her hours at work were cut, and she started posting vague complaints online about rent and bills. One evening, she called me. Ariel, what's up, Maya? I'm really behind on rent. Could you lend me like $700? I'll pay you back next month. I froze. I had a small buffer, enough that I could technically cover that without touching my bills. But I also knew my life was fragile. One unexpected expense, one emergency, and it would all be gone. I typed carefully, me. I'm so sorry, Ariel. I really can't lend that right now. Her response was immediate and sharp. Ariel, what? Are you serious? You obviously have the money. That's selfish. I didn't answer. I stared at my phone, feeling my chest tighten. I'd expected disappointment. I hadn't expected anger. Over the next few days, her messages multiplied, some pleading, some accusatory, and a few downright insulting. Ariel, I guess our friendship doesn't matter to you. Ariel, I've helped you out before, and now you can't do this for me? Pathetic. I tried to explain over text. Me, I'm not being selfish. I'm being responsible. I've never had savings before, and I can't risk it now. Ariel, that's a lame excuse. You're just greedy. The words stung more than I expected. I love this friend, but I realized I'd never had to stand my ground with her before. 2 weeks later, things got worse. She posted online, subtly throwing shade at me in a group chat we both belonged to. Mutual friends started asking me what was going on. I explained calmly, and some sided with me, but a few whispered about me not being a good friend. Then came the confrontation. I ran into her outside a cafe. She stormed over, furious, waving her phone. Do you know what you did? You embarrassed me. I didn't embarrass you, Ariel. I just can't give you money I don't want to risk losing, I said, trying to stay calm. You always do this. Always putting yourself first, she yelled. People around us started staring. I have to put myself first sometimes. I snapped back, louder than I intended. I'm tired of people treating me like my life exists to fix theirs. She scoffed. Fine, be selfish. Enjoy your little savings. I hope it's worth it when no one's left for you. I felt my own anger flare. And I hope you realize that manipulating people, insulting friends, and throwing tantrums doesn't get you what you want. You've pushed everyone away, not me. She spun on her heel and left. I stood there, breathing hard, the noise of the street fading around me. The next day, her messages kept coming. Each ping on my phone felt like a punch. Ariel, what's up? You're so heartless. I can't believe you. Ariel, everyone's going to see you for what you really are. Ariel, you've never been a true friend. I finally snapped. My fingers shook as I typed. Me, you know what, Ariel? I'm done. You think insulting me and guilt-tripping me is going to get your way? You're wrong. I'm not responsible for your life. I can't believe you call yourself a friend. She called me immediately. I let it ring once, twice, then answered. Her voice was sharp, almost shrieking. Are you seriously ignoring me? You're disgusting. I'm not ignoring you, I shouted. I'm protecting myself. You've been bullying me for days. You're such a coward. Always hiding behind your money, she yelled. Oh, so now I'm a coward because I can't risk my own life for you? How about you take responsibility for once? Stop blaming everyone else for your mistakes. I bellowed, drawing attention from passers-by. The argument escalated, voices clashing, yelling echoing down the street. I told her everything I had been holding back, every insult, every manipulation, every time she treated me like I existed to serve her. She countered with anger and accusations, but I stood firm. By the end, we were both exhausted, out of breath, hands shaking from fury. She hung up abruptly, slamming her phone. I sank onto a nearby bench, heart racing, tears blurring my vision. For the first time, I felt free. It had been messy, ugly, and loud, but I had defended myself. Days passed, and I avoided our mutual friends who asked questions. Each conversation was tense, full of whispered judgments and awkward glances. Some called me cold or selfish, and every insult hit like a stone. I finally yelled back in texts, not holding anything back. Me, I am not cold. I am not selfish. I am tired of everyone expecting me to sacrifice my life for someone else's drama. You insult me, whisper about me, and then judge me? I will not take it anymore. The silence that followed was deafening. I stopped checking my phone constantly. I stopped worrying about everyone's opinions. I focused on myself, my apartment, my cat, and the tiny freedoms I had been building. Weeks later, Ariel reached out briefly, but her messages lacked their previous intensity. I responded carefully, keeping boundaries firm. I realized that standing up for myself didn't make me a bad friend. It made me human. Ariel stopped contacting me for almost a month. I thought that silence would bring peace, but last week, my phone started buzzing in a way that made my stomach knot. At first, it was just a single message, but soon it turned into a flood. Ariel, what's up? Everyone's talking about me like I'm a failure because of you. I lost my job because of stress. This is your fault. I didn't didn't respond. I stared at the screen, heart racing, unsure if ignoring her would make it worse or better. Then the messages kept coming, each one sharper than the last. Ariel, you're a terrible friend. I can't believe you left me like this. Ariel, I hope you get lonely one day and realize what it's like to have nobody. Ariel, do you even care about anyone but yourself, Maya? Every word felt like a punch. I wanted to scream back, but I held my breath, forcing myself to think before reacting. But the next wave hit harder. She sent a voice note. My thumb hesitated over the play button. I knew it would either be the calm I craved or a storm I wasn't ready for. I pressed play. Her voice was trembling, broken. I didn't realize how much I pushed everyone away. I thought you'd just bail me out like always. I'm scared, Maya. I don't know what to do. Her vulnerability hit me like a tidal wave. I wanted to say something comforting, but my anger from the past month flared. I remembered all the guilt tripping, the insults, the endless demands that had drained me. I typed slowly, every word deliberate. Me, I hear you, Ariel, but I can't fix your problems. You have to start taking responsibility for yourself. I can support you as a friend, but I won't risk my own life for someone else's mistakes. Then came hours of silence. My phone sat on the table like a ticking bomb. I felt every second, every throb of tension in my chest. Finally, a reply came. Ariel, I understand. I'm sorry for everything. I just didn't know where else to turn. I breathed out slowly. Relief, yes, but also a strange sense of exhaustion. It wasn't over. I knew that. The next day, her messages returned, but this time in shorter bursts, some passive-aggressive, some pleading. Ariel, I can't believe you left me. I feel like everyone hates me. Ariel, do you even remember all the times I was there for you? Ariel, I hope you understand how it feels to have no one. I lost it. My fingers flew across the keyboard, shaking from pent-up frustration. Me, enough. Ariel, I remember everything. The insults, the guilt trips, the screaming matches. I am not your punching bag. I am not here to fix your life. Stop pretending this is all my fault. You made your choices. You manipulated people. You insulted me, and I will not apologize for protecting myself. Her response was immediate and venomous. Ariel, wow, just like I thought. Cold, heartless, selfish. You really are the worst friend. I felt my blood boil. I shouted into the phone, though she couldn't hear me directly. You think calling me selfish will make me crumble? After everything, do you hear yourself? You insult me, you manipulate me, and you have the audacity to call me the worst friend? You're unbelievable. Then I typed again. Me, I am not cold. I am not heartless. I am tired. I am done being the person everyone leans on while they throw me under the bus. You want to act like a victim? Fine, but stop making me want to. Hours passed with no reply. I almost felt the calm return, but the tension was still there. A low hum in my chest, a reminder of how close anger and relief can sit. 3 days later, Ariel called me. I didn't answer. Then she showed up outside my apartment. Standing on the street, drenched from the rain, she shouted, Maya, you've ruined me. Everyone is talking about me because of you. You're supposed to be my friend. I opened the door just enough to yell back. Get out of my life. Ariel, you think screaming at me makes it better? You think insults, manipulation, and bullying our friendship? This ends now. She lunged forward, nearly slipping on the wet pavement. I stepped back, my voice shaking but loud. I'm done. I am not your savior. I am not responsible for your job, your stress, or your happiness. Take responsibility for your own life. She spat back, trembling with fury. You think you're better than me? You think your little savings make you some hero? You're pathetic, Maya. You've always been selfish. I yelled until my throat burned, every word carrying months of pent-up frustration. And I don't care if you think I'm selfish. I will not let you drag me down anymore. I am done being manipulated. I am done being insulted. You are not my responsibility. Her face was pale, her chest heaving. She backed off, finally realizing I meant it. The rain soaked us both, but the storm between us had reached its peak. I shut the door slowly, trembling, and sank to the floor inside. My cat, Whiskers, jumped onto my lap. I just held her, shaking from adrenaline. Over the next week, Ariel sent one more message. Ariel, I think I need to figure things out on my own. I'm sorry for everything. I didn't reply. I knew silence was stronger this time. I didn't need closure from her. I had boundaries. I had peace. And I had learned that sometimes the hardest part of caring about someone is letting them face the consequences of their actions. 2 weeks later, I got a notification. Ariel had gotten a temporary job, enough to cover her rent, enough to start being responsible again. She sent me one message. Ariel, I did it. I'm okay now. Thank you for not giving me money. I finally had to try. I felt pride, relief, and a strange mix of sorrow. Watching someone grow through struggle instead of dependency is painful, but it's also beautiful in a quiet, raw way. Not AITA. Maya, honestly, you handled a nightmare situation with boundaries most people wouldn't dare enforce. Ariel treated your life like it was a joke, expecting your hard-earned stability to become her safety net, and you didn't fold, standing firm. Even when her anger, guilt trips, and public posts tried to manipulate you, show strength. You weren't selfish. You were protecting yourself from being drained emotionally and financially. That's not cruelty. That's self-respect. The way you let her experience the consequences of her actions rather than bailing her out is exactly the kind of tough love that actually works. It's uncomfortable, messy, and sometimes heartbreaking to watch someone struggle, but enabling her would have only prolonged the chaos. You stayed true to yourself, stayed calm when you could, and finally asserted limits that anyone in a healthy relationship, even a friendship, deserves. The subtle victory here is in the silence. She figured things out without your money, without constant intervention. You gave her space to grow while keeping your sanity intact. That's powerful. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Got a story to share? Drop it in the comments and let us know which one was your favorite.